You booked a room, you checked in, but what if the room was already occupied? From haunted hallways to phantom footsteps in the night, these aren't just old hotels, they're gateways to something darker. Tonight, we'll take you deep into the 10 most haunted hotels and inns across Victoria, Australia. But be warned, once you hear these stories, you might never sleep the same way again. One, the Cosmopolitan Hotel, Daylesford. You thought a quiet night in Daylesford would be just what you needed, but the moment you stepped into the Cosmopolitan Hotel, something felt off. The air was dense, like it held onto memories too heavy to forget. You checked into your room, nothing fancy, just old wooden floors and a fireplace that hadn't been used in years. But as soon as the sun dipped below the hills, the hotel seemed to wake up in a different way. It began with soft piano music, not from your phone, not from the hallway. It was coming from the grand lounge downstairs, the same lounge that staff said had been locked since renovations began. Curious, you crept down, only to find the room empty, cold, and the piano lid shut tight. No one was there, no music, just silence. You returned to your room, brushing it off as your imagination, but then the footsteps started, slow, steady, and small, like those of a child, right outside your door. You opened it. Nothing. The corridor stretched quiet and still, but as you turned around, you saw it. A fleeting glimpse in the old mirror above your bed. A little girl in a white dress, her eyes sunken and hollow, staring directly at you before vanishing. Locals whisper her name is Annabelle. She died in the 1870s during a fire that consumed part of the hotel. Multiple guests have reported her wandering the upper floors. Paranormal investigators have even captured unexplained cold spots and EVP recordings of a girl laughing when no child was present. You came here for rest, but the Cosmopolitan gave you something else. Now, the only question is, do you dare stay another night? Chapter 2, Blackwood Hotel, Blackwood. You didn't believe in ghosts, not really. That's probably why you agreed to spend the weekend at the Blackwood Hotel, a rustic pub nestled in the middle of Victoria's forested hills. But the moment you walked through the front doors, something cold brushed past your skin, as if the building had exhaled and noticed you. At first, it was charming. Old wooden beams, creaky floors, stories in every corner. But then you heard it, the sound of your name, softly, from the hallway outside the bathroom. You paused. No one else was around. You stepped out. Empty corridor, lights flickering. Just silence, broken by the faint clink of glasses, though the bar had closed an hour ago. Later that night, you asked the bartender about it. He didn't laugh. Instead, he nodded slowly and told you the truth. This place used to be the town's morgue. Bodies were kept in the very cellar beneath your feet. Over the years, staff have reported toilets flushing on their own, lights turning off mid-shift, and EMF meters spiking in empty rooms. Then came the final moment. You were brushing your teeth when the bathroom door slammed shut behind you, violently. You reached for the handle, locked, and from behind you came a whisper, a rasp, a word you couldn't make out. Your reflection in the mirror blurred, as if something else was standing beside you. That night, you didn't sleep, and when you finally stepped outside at dawn, the air was still cold, like the dead were watching from inside, waiting for someone else to call. Maybe next, it'll be you. 3. Denali Railway Hotel. Denali. You came to Denali chasing gold rush history, but what you found at the railway hotel was something much older, something that refuses to stay buried. From the outside, the place looked like a postcard. Brick walls, wrought iron balconies, echoes of 1861 charm. But once you crossed the threshold, you felt it, a pressure in your chest. a silence that seemed aware. Your room was upstairs, just past the antique staircase. That night, around 3 a.m., you awoke to soft footsteps outside your door. Deliberate, steady, dragging. You froze, heart pounding. Then, a knock. 3 slow taps. You opened the door. Nothing. But the hallway lights flickered, and out of the corner of your eye, a shadow glided past, silent and slow. You weren't the first. Guests have long reported seeing the same thing, an elderly woman in black, drifting through the upper floor. Some say she was the wife of a miner who vanished during the gold rush. She checked in, waited for him every night, and never left. Her spirit still roams, locked in that same endless vigil. Local paranormal teams have captured temperature drops and sudden EMF spikes right outside room 7, your room. One team even recorded a woman's voice whispering, "He's not coming." You wanted to explore history, instead you became a part of it, and now every creak in the night reminds you, she's still walking, still waiting, just down the hall. 4. Royal Hotel, Seymour. You thought you'd found the perfect stopover, a cozy room at the Royal Hotel in Seymour. It looked harmless enough, a bit old, sure, but charming in that small town kind of way. No one told you it used to be the town's morgue. The first sign came just after midnight. You were brushing your teeth when the light above the mirror started to buzz, then flickered out. The air turned icy. Not cold, wrong. You stood frozen, watching your reflection, and then, behind you, something moved. A pale shape, drifting down the staircase in the hallway behind you, white, glowing, and featureless. You ran out, heart racing, and bumped straight into the bartender, closing up. When you told him what you'd seen, he didn't even flinch. "You saw the woman," he said. "Happens more often than you'd think." He explained that after serving as a morgue in the 1800s, the Royal Hotel had gained a reputation, lights turning on by themselves, doors locking from the inside, guests waking up to the sound of someone breathing right next to them, only to find the room empty. One visitor even caught a figure on camera, a glowing mist, descending the stairs at exactly 12:47 a.m. You didn't sleep that night. The light in your room turned on by itself at least 3 times, and every time you closed your eyes, you swore you could hear footsteps on the carpet. Soft, deliberate, circling your bed. You came for a quiet night, but at the Royal, the dead still check in. The real question is, will they ever check out? 5. Odessa at Lever's Hotel, Creswick. You weren't looking for ghosts, just a weekend getaway in Creswick. The Odessa at Lever's Hotel looked vintage, elegant, a slice of gold rush history. But once you stepped inside, the air shifted. It was too quiet. Still, like the walls were holding their breath. Your room was on the 2nd floor, just past a faded portrait of a woman with hollow eyes. That night, you woke at 3:11 a.m., cold, sweating, certain someone was watching you. The room was dark, but you could feel it, a presence, heavy, close. You turned on the lamp, nothing there. Then the window creaked open, by itself. You got up to close it, but when you looked outside, you caught it. A reflection in the glass, a woman standing behind you, no sound, no warmth. Just eyes staring through you like you didn't belong. You weren't dreaming. Locals say the building has lived many lives, brothel, bank, boarding house, but one thing never changed, the hauntings. Guests have reported doors slamming in empty hallways, lights flickering in unison, and voices whispering from vents that lead to bricked-off rooms. One guest even fled mid-stay after seeing a figure sit at the edge of their bed and vanish when touched. You asked the staff. They just smiled and said, "The Odessa likes to keep her secrets." You checked in for a peaceful night. Instead, you uncovered something buried in the walls, watching, waiting, remembering. And now, it remembers you. 6. Alsburg Resort, Old Convent. Mansfield. You didn't know it used to be a convent. No one really advertises that anymore. The Alsburg Resort in Mansfield looked like a peaceful retreat. Historic, elegant, quiet. But when you checked in, you noticed the silence wasn't peaceful. It was unnatural. Your room overlooked the chapel ruins. At first, it was the creaking floors, the wind brushing against the old windows. But around 2 a.m., you heard footsteps, measured, slow, coming from the hallway. You peeked through the door. No one. But then you felt it, a chill like ice water down your spine. And from the corner of your eye, a tall man in a long white robe passed silently by. You thought it was your mind playing tricks, until the next night when you were lying in bed, eyes closed, and you heard it, chanting, low, rhythmic, like a prayer in Latin. But you were alone. You checked your phone, no audio, no one outside, just you and a voice coming from the chapel ruins. Locals whisper about a priest who died during the 1880s influenza outbreak, locked himself in the chapel with sick children and never came out. Visitors since then have reported seeing a figure in white robes standing at windows or sitting silently in the chapel, hands clasped, unmoving. Paranormal investigators recorded temperature drops of over 15 degrees in under a minute. One even caught a voice on tape saying, "Sanctus, Sanctus," before the equipment cut out. You came here for rest. Instead, you woke something that had been silent for over a century, and now it's praying for you. 7. Hotel Windsor, Melbourne. You booked the Hotel Windsor for its luxury, not its legends. A historic gem in the heart of Melbourne. Velvet drapes, golden chandeliers, echoes of royalty. But no one told you the halls still echo with a voice that doesn't belong to the living. Your room was on the 3rd floor. Grand, quiet, too quiet. That night, just after midnight, you were awakened by music. Soft, soaring, operatic. A woman's voice. Beautiful and chilling. It was coming from down the corridor, floating gently through the air like a lullaby from another time. You followed it, drawn by something you couldn't explain. The hallway was empty, lights dimmed, but the music continued, growing louder. Near room 310, you placed your hand on the doorknob, and the singing stopped. Later, you learned the truth. That voice? Many believe it belongs to Dame Nellie Melba, Australia's most famous soprano, who often stayed here before her death. Guests have heard her rehearsing in the night, felt cold drafts rush past closed windows, and seen curtains billow when there's no breeze. One traveller captured an audio recording of an aria echoing through the walls, despite the room being empty, locked, and off limits for renovation. Staff don't talk about it openly, but they know, and they listen too. You came for 5-star comfort. But the Windsor offered a performance from beyond the grave, and now that you've heard her, she might not stop singing. 8. Craig's Royal Hotel, 10. Lydiard St. S, Ballarat. Central Victoria. You arrived in Ballarat expecting gold rush grandeur, and Craig's Royal Hotel delivered. Crystal chandeliers, ornate ceilings, velvet armchairs. But beneath the elegance, something else lingers, something that watches. You were given a room on the upper floor said to have hosted royalty. That night, as you lay half asleep, you heard footsteps pacing above you. Odd, there was no floor above. You listened, heart pounding. Then came a creak, and the distinct sound of someone whispering right beside your ear. You sat up. No one, but your mirror had fogged, as if someone had exhaled on the glass. And in that moment, something caught your eye. Just behind you, a woman in a long dress hanging in the air, then gone. You later learned the tale, a noble woman in the late 1800s who stayed in that very room. She never checked out. Rumor says she took her own life after losing her fiancé in a mining collapse. Since then, guests have reported the same things: voices, cold spots, the feeling of being watched. Some even wake to find the window wide open, though they swore they locked it before bed. In 2009, a photo taken in the grand staircase revealed a misty figure hovering mid-step. Experts found no digital tampering. You thought you were staying in a monument to history, but at Craig's Royal, history breathes, and she is still waiting at the window. Now to 9. The Mitre Tavern, Melbourne. You weren't planning to stay long. Just a quick drink at the Mitre Tavern, Melbourne's oldest pub. Tucked away in a quiet laneway, it looked like something out of Victorian England. Warm lights, creaking floors. But the moment you stepped inside, you felt it. A strange pull, like the building noticed you. You sat upstairs, alone, near the old fireplace. That's when it began. First, the footsteps above you, heels slow, deliberate, though the staff swore no one was on the top floor. Then, your wine glass moved, just an inch, enough to make your hand tremble. You brushed it off until you saw her. A woman in white, standing at the edge of the balcony, expression blank, eyes hollow. You blinked, she vanished. Later, you found out her name was Connie War. She lived in the 1800s, and legend says she was murdered by her lover in that very room. Since then, her spirit is said to roam the upper floor. Patrons report sudden drops in temperature, perfume that appears from nowhere, and chairs that rock slowly on their own. In 2016, a guest captured a photo of a pale figure behind the window upstairs. No one was inside at the time. Paranormal groups have confirmed EMF spikes and recorded faint crying from the staircase after midnight. You came for a drink, but the Mitre gave you a ghost, and now that she's seen you, she might not let you forget. 10. Kangaroo Hotel, Malden. You thought Malden would be quiet, a sleepy gold rush town, a peaceful night at the Kangaroo Hotel. But from the moment you stepped inside, the air felt charged, like the past hadn't left, like something was still there. Your room overlooked the old stable yard. Around 2 a.m, you were jolted awake, not by sound, but by vibration. The floorboards beneath your bed shook gently, then came a faint but unmistakable noise. Hoofbeats, galloping, fast. But the yard outside was empty, overgrown, and dead silent. You heard it again, closer, then a screech, sharp, metallic. You rushed to the window, still nothing, but the air smelled of smoke, burnt wood, and something else, like singed fur. You learned the truth the next morning. In the 1870s, a stable fire broke out behind the hotel. 10 horses perished, trapped, screaming. Ever since, guests have reported hearing hoofbeats across the floor at night, and feeling their bed shake as if something galloped through the room. Staff have experienced flickering lights, unexplained hotspots, and even the sound of panicked snorts echoing from the cellar, now sealed off. One paranormal investigator left the hotel in the middle of the night, refusing to return after recording what sounded like hooves crashing against wood from inside his room. You came looking for rest, but at the Kangaroo Hotel, the dead don't stay buried, especially the ones that died screaming. So, would you dare to spend a night in any of these rooms? Because the guests who checked in before you, some of them never left. If you want more haunted tales from Australia's darkest corners, hit subscribe, leave a comment with the scariest location, and join us next time. Wherever there's a whisper in the dark, we'll be there to tell the story.